The night was cold and the streets were empty. A man walked alone, his hands deep inside his worn-out jacket, his head bent low. His name was Daniel, but to most people he was just another face in the crowd, someone easy to forget. He had once dreamed of a better life, but those dreams had fallen apart one by one, jobs lost, friends gone, family distant. He was a man without hope, a man who felt small in a world that did not care about him. He stopped near an abandoned park, the place where he sometimes sat to think. Above him, the sky stretched wide and dark, filled with stars that seemed so far away. Daniel often wondered if anyone out there, beyond the stars, ever thought about people like him. People who were weak, struggling, and lost. He sighed, shaking his head. But then something strange happened. The stars above him flickered as if some invisible hand was brushing across the sky. Daniel frowned and rubbed his eyes, thinking he was too tired, maybe half dreaming. But the flicker grew stronger, brighter, until the stars themselves seemed to vanish behind a massive shadow. At first, Daniel thought it was a storm cloud. But this shadow moved differently. It grew larger, wider, darker. The air around him shifted, pressing against his chest. His breath caught. Then the sound came. It was not thunder, not wind, not anything human. It was a deep hum, like the sound of 1,000 voices speaking at once, low and heavy. Daniel clutched the edge of the bench, his heart racing. Above the park, a shape revealed itself. A colossal form, metallic and alive, blocking the moonlight. A ship. It hovered silently, its surface glowing faintly with strange patterns, like veins of fire running across its skin. Daniel's mouth went dry. His legs screamed to run, but his body would not move. He could only stare. The ship opened. From its underside, a circle of light descended, spreading across the park like a stage of fire. Daniel shielded his eyes, trembling. And then he saw her. A figure stepped out of the light. She was massive, taller than any human he had ever seen, towering like a building, her skin glowing with a silver-blue shine. Her eyes were bright and unblinking like burning stars, and her long hair moved as if alive, flowing even without wind. She was both terrifying and beautiful, like a goddess from another world. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. His body shook. The giant alien woman looked down at him. Her voice did not come from her mouth. It echoed inside his head, filling him completely, leaving no space for his own thoughts. "I need a husband," she said. Daniel stumbled back, falling onto the cold grass. His eyes widened in disbelief. Her words were heavy, clear, and impossible to ignore. His heart pounded so loudly he thought it might break his chest. What are you?" he whispered, his voice shaking. The alien widow took another step closer, her shadow covering him completely. Her gaze never left him. "And you?" she continued, her voice deep, calm, yet commanding. "You need strong offspring." Daniel froze. The world around him seemed unreal. His mind screamed that this was madness, a dream, an illusion. Yet every detail was sharp. The scent of burning air, the heat of the light, the ground trembling beneath her weight. He tried to crawl backward, but his arms felt weak, his body heavy. She reached down, and for a moment he thought she would crush him. But instead, her enormous hand stopped inches away, open, waiting. Daniel's heart raced. Fear consumed him, but beneath the fear was something else. A strange pull, a spark of curiosity, as if some part of him already knew this encounter was not an accident. He stared into her glowing eyes, unable to look away. "Why, me?" he asked, his voice breaking. The alien widow tilted her head, studying him like a rare creature. Her lips curved into something like a smile, though it carried no warmth. "Because you are weak," she said softly, almost like a whisper. Yet her words struck him like thunder, and weakness hides strength you cannot see. Daniel's chest tightened. He felt both insulted and chosen, powerless yet significant. He had been ignored all his life, treated as nothing. And now, this being from beyond the stars stood before him, claiming him for something greater, or something darker. The silence stretched. The night air was heavy. Daniel could hear his own heartbeat, fast and uneven. She stepped closer again, her massive form filling the night sky. "You will come with me," her voice commanded. "You will see why I chose you." Daniel's body trembled. He wanted to refuse, to scream, to run, but his voice was gone, trapped in his throat. And deep inside, beneath all his fear, a single thought burned. His life was about to change forever. Daniel stood frozen, the cold grass wet beneath his hands. the air trembling with power around him. The giant alien widow's words still echoed inside his head. I need a husband. And you need strong offspring. It was madness, yet it felt too real to be a dream. He tried to speak, but no sound came. His throat was dry, his body stiff. The alien's enormous eyes glowed as she lowered herself slightly, crouching so her face hovered close to his. Her presence was overwhelming, a storm pressed into a single body. You are afraid, she said. Her voice was not cruel, not kind, only certain like a truth carved into stone. Daniel forced himself to swallow. Of course I'm afraid. What are you? Why me? His voice cracked. The alien widow tilted her head, studying him. My kind is almost gone. Our males died in war, burned in battles across galaxies. My people are widows, rulers of ruins. Our empire will die unless we begin again. Her words painted pictures in Daniel's mind. Flashes of stars exploding, giant ships colliding, armies of strange beings locked in endless fights. He saw towering alien men falling one after another, leaving only women behind, women who were strong but desperate. Daniel shook his head. That's not my problem. I'm just a man. I can't help you. The widow's silver blue skin caught the moonlight as she leaned closer, her glowing hair drifting like smoke. You misunderstand. You carry something rare. Human blood is small, weak, and yet it survives. Your kind should not endure storms, hunger, war, but you do. In your weakness hides the strength to adapt. That is what we need. Daniel blinked. You're saying, you want me to give you children? Is that it? The alien's eyes did not blink. Yes, a union. You give me offspring, and in return you will not live as you did before. No hunger, no loneliness, no despair. With me you will rise above the ruins of your kind. Her words struck deep. Daniel thought of his empty apartment, his lost jobs, the long nights where he stared at ceilings with no reason to wake the next morning. For a heartbeat, temptation whispered in his ear, but fear returned quickly. You're talking about breeding me like an animal. I'm not. The widow cut him off, her voice sharp but calm. You are more than an animal. You are a seed that can grow into something greater, if placed in the right soil. Daniel stood shakily, his legs weak. He wanted to run, but the ship above glowed like a prison ceiling, and her presence was a cage of its own. He pointed a trembling finger at her. Why me? Out of everyone on this planet, why choose a nobody? The alien widow's eyes narrowed. A low hum rolled through the park, vibrating the ground. Because nobodies are not seen. You are not protected, not guarded. No one will search for you. And yet inside you I sense potential. Potential to shape the future of two worlds. Her honesty cut like a blade. Daniel felt small, exposed. She was right. No one would come looking for him. No one would notice if he disappeared tonight. The widow extended her giant hand again, palm open, waiting. Come willingly and you will live. Resist and I will still take you, but you will suffer. Choose. The word choose echoed like thunder in his mind. Daniel's chest heaved. His thoughts screamed in circles, fear, anger, disbelief, curiosity. What if she was lying? What if this was a trap, a cruel game? But what if she spoke truth? What if his pathetic life could actually mean something more? He shook his head violently. This is insane. You can't just... The widow's eyes flared brighter, silencing him. She leaned even closer until her face filled his vision. Her voice dropped to a whisper that felt like fire in his bones. Do not think this is chance. You were chosen. I could have taken kings, soldiers, leaders. But I chose you. Weakness hides the sharpest edge. Daniel's knees buckled. Her words wrapped around his fear, twisting it into something he could not name. Was it respect? Was it destiny? The night was silent again except for the faint hum of her ship. She waited, patient, her hand still open. Daniel's mind spun. If he refused, what then? Could he fight her? Could he escape a ship that covered half the sky? The thought was laughable. He was nothing compared to her. But if he agreed, if he went with her, what would he become? His heart raced. He thought of his father's words long ago. A man is nothing until he finds what he's willing to risk everything for. Daniel stared up at her glowing eyes, his fear heavy, his pulse wild. And in that terrifying silence he realized something. His life had been empty because he had never mattered. But here now in this impossible night he mattered more than ever. He did not take her hand yet. But he did not run either. The widow smiled faintly, the first sign of expression he had seen on her alien face. You are thinking? she said softly. That is good. But soon you must decide. The light of the ship pulsed above as if waiting for his answer. The park around him felt smaller, the world he knew fading away. Daniel's lips trembled as he whispered almost to himself, "What have I walked into?" The alien widow's eyes glowed brighter. "The future," she replied. The night was no longer Daniel's. The park, the trees, the earth itself felt swallowed by the giant ship above. The alien widow stood tall before him, her glowing hand still extended. Daniel had not taken it, but he had not run away either. That was enough for her. Without warning, light wrapped around him. It lifted him off the ground like invisible chains. His arms flailed, his heart pounded, but he could not break free. The widow's gaze stayed fixed on him, calm, powerful, unreadable. "You doubt yourself," her voice thundered inside his skull. "So you must be tested." Daniel's protest was cut short as the light pulled him upward. The world spun beneath him until the park vanished, and all he saw was the ship's belly opening wide like the mouth of some impossible beast. He was swallowed whole. Inside, the ship was alive. Its walls glowed with veins of light. Its floor shifted beneath his feet like it breathed. Strange symbols flickered across the air, floating like dust made of fire. The scale of it was terrifying. The widow's voice returned, calm but firm. "No union begins without trial. My husband must prove courage or he is nothing." Daniel's chest tightened. "I told you I'm not strong." "You've got the wrong man." She ignored his words and raised her hand. A circle of light appeared on the floor, expanding until it became a glowing arena. The walls rose high around it, humming with energy. Daniel found himself trapped inside, and then he was no longer alone. From the opposite side of the arena, a creature crawled out. Its body was black and jagged, its limbs too many to count, each one ending in claws sharp as knives. Its mouth was a nightmare of teeth dripping with blue fire. Its eyes glowed red, locked on Daniel with hunger. Daniel stumbled back, his heart racing. "You've got to be kidding me." The widow's voice echoed from above, calm as stone. "This is a Krith. In our wars, they hunted us. If you cannot face one, you cannot face me." The creature screeched, the sound so sharp it burned his ears. Then it charged. Daniel's instincts screamed to run, but the arena walls trapped him. He darted sideways, barely avoiding the beast's claws. The floor shook under its weight as it skidded, then turned with terrifying speed. Daniel's mind raced. He had no weapon, no armor, nothing but his weak human body. His chest heaved, his legs burned. If he faced it head-on, he would die in seconds. The beast lunged again. Daniel ducked low, rolling across the glowing floor. His jacket tore, his arms scraped raw, but he was alive. Barely. He spotted something glimmering near the wall. A shard of metal, sharp and jagged. Maybe a piece left from another fight. He dove for it, snatching it up just as the creature's claws raked the ground where he had been. The shard was small, no bigger than a kitchen knife. But in his shaking hands it felt like hope. The creature circled him, growling, its red eyes locked on his every move. Daniel held the shard tightly, sweat dripping down his face. "Think, Daniel. Think," he muttered under his breath. Running would only tire him out. He had to be smarter. When the beast lunged again, he sidestepped and slashed with the shard. Sparks flew as metal met alien hide, leaving only a shallow cut. The creature roared in pain, thrashing wildly. Daniel was thrown back, the shard nearly flying from his grip. But now he knew. It could bleed. Adrenaline surged through him. He forced himself up, legs shaking, lungs burning. The beast charged again, faster, furious. Daniel dodged, barely, and struck at its leg. Another shallow cut, another roar. His heart thundered. His arms ached. Every dodge felt closer to death, every strike too weak. But he kept moving, kept fighting. Not because he thought he could win, but because he refused to lie down and die. High above, the widow watched in silence. Her glowing eyes followed his every move. Daniel stumbled, almost falling. The beast's claws slashed across his jacket, tearing fabric, grazing skin. Pain flared hot, but he pushed through. He spotted the creature's throat. Softer, unarmored, exposed when it roared. One chance. The beast lunged, its jaws wide. Daniel ducked under its strike, leaping forward with every ounce of strength left in his body. He drove the shard upward into its throat. Blue fire burst from the wound. The beast screeched, thrashing wildly, its body slamming against the walls of the arena. Daniel held on desperately, the shard buried deep until the creature collapsed with a final shudder. Silence fell. Daniel lay on the floor, gasping, blood mixing with sweat. the shard still clutched in his trembling hands. Above, the alien widow's voice finally returned. But this time it was softer. "You are weak in body," she said, "but not in will. You fight with desperation, and desperation is the seed of survival." Daniel dragged himself to his feet, his whole body aching. He glared up at her, anger and fear twisting inside him. "Is this what you wanted? To watch me almost die?" The widow's glowing face lowered closer, her expression unreadable. "This was only the beginning," she replied. "You live because you refuse to surrender. That is why I chose you." Daniel's chest heaved. He wanted to scream at her, to demand answers, to beg for release. But deep inside, under the terror, a strange feeling stirred. Pride. For the first time in years, he had fought for his life. And he had won. The arena's walls faded, the ship's lights dimmed. The test was over. But Daniel knew this was only the start. And somewhere deep in his bones, a chilling thought took root. If this was only the first test, what would come next? The arena was gone. The glowing walls dissolved into thin air, leaving Daniel standing on the breathing floor of the alien ship. His chest still heaved from the fight, his arms shook, and the shard of metal slipped from his tired fingers. He had survived, but every muscle screamed with pain. Above him, the widow's voice returned, calm and certain. "You see now. Weakness bends, but it does not break. You are ready to take the next step." Daniel looked up at her, his anger raw. "You call that a test? That thing almost killed me." The giant alien tilted her head, her glowing hair drifting like mist. "If you had died, you were not meant for me. But you lived. That is all that matters." Before Daniel could answer, light wrapped around him again. Not the burning kind that had dragged him here, but softer, like invisible hands lifting him from the arena floor. His wounds stung, but as the light touched him, the pain dulled. The cuts closed, the bruises faded, and warmth spread through his body. He gasped, staring at his arms. What did you do?" The widow's voice was steady. "I healed you. My husband cannot be broken so easily." The light carried Daniel forward. The arena vanished behind him as wide doors opened ahead. He floated through them, his feet brushing the living floor, until the space widened into something vast and breathtaking. It was a hall, a corridor so huge it could swallow a skyscraper. The walls pulsed with silver light like veins of a giant heart. Strange shapes drifted through the air, spheres that glowed faintly, carrying symbols Daniel could not read. The air smelled sharp like metal and rain, and he was not alone. Figures stood along the corridor, tall like the widow but different. Alien women, each towering above him, their silver blue skin gleaming, their eyes glowing faintly. They wore flowing armor that looked both ceremonial and alive. Their hair moved like flames underwater. Daniel froze as dozens of their eyes turned toward him. Their gazes burned with curiosity, suspicion, even hunger. One of them whispered in a voice that carried like thunder. "So small." Another's lips curled. "This is the one she chooses? A fragile man of earth?" The widow stepped forward, towering above them all, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "He has faced the Krith and lived. That is more than many of you could say." The corridor went silent. The alien women lowered their eyes, but Daniel could feel their stares pressing into his back. He swallowed hard, every nerve on fire. The widow led him deeper into the ship. The walls shifted, turning, reshaping until the corridor became a chamber. Daniel stepped inside and gasped. It was a garden inside a starship. Towering trees of crystal grew from the glowing floor, their branches heavy with orbs of light instead of fruit. Streams of liquid silver flowed between them, filling the chamber with soft music as they trickled. Flowers unlike anything on Earth bloomed in spirals, their petals opening and closing as if breathing. Daniel's mouth fell open. This is impossible." The widow's eyes softened for the first time. "This was my husband's garden. He planted it before the war took him. It is all that remains of him, and of peace." Her voice lowered, a shadow of pain beneath it. "Our people live for war, but I keep this place alive so I do not forget what we once were." Daniel looked around, wonder mixing with unease. The beauty was unreal, yet he could feel the weight of her grief. For the first time, she seemed less like a goddess and more like a widow carrying wounds no healing light could mend. He touched one of the glowing flowers. It pulsed beneath his fingers, warm like a heartbeat. "Why show me this?" The widow's gaze burned into him. "Because you must understand. This is not only about survival. It is about legacy.
My people see me as desperate.
They whisper I am weak for seeking you, but if I can create something new and stronger, different, then they will follow. Then my husband's garden will not be the last seed of hope. Daniel's chest tightened. The idea of being part of something so massive, so alien, twisted his thoughts. He wanted to reject it, to call it madness, but he could not ignore the truth in her eyes, the loneliness, the burden. They walked on. The ship opened into another chamber. This one was harsher, filled with strange machines. Some looked like weapons, others like cages. Daniel shivered as he passed them, feeling as if invisible eyes watched him. Whispers followed them again, the voices of alien women from the shadows. Some laughed, some sneered. He will not last. He is too fragile. Perhaps he will break and then we will see her fall. Daniel clenched his fists, anger bubbling in his chest. For years no one had cared if he lived or died, and now these towering beings judged him like a toy. The widow noticed. She leaned close, her voice a whisper only for him. Do not fear their words. Prove them wrong and they will kneel. Daniel looked up at her. And if I can't? Her glowing eyes narrowed, sharp as blades. Then you will die. And I will choose another. Her honesty froze him. There was no kindness in it, no mercy, only truth. As they reached the end of the chamber, a door slid open, revealing a dark passage ahead. The widow paused, her shadow covering him. This ship is your new world, Daniel. Learn it, survive it, and one day rule it by my side. Daniel's breath caught. Rule it? The idea was insane. He was just a broken man from Earth. Yet here he was, standing on a living ship among alien widows who doubted him, guided by a woman who could crush him like dust, and she was telling him this was his path. He stared into the dark passage ahead. His life on Earth was already gone. The journey had begun, and deep inside a question burned louder than ever. Was he walking toward destiny or doom? Daniel had only begun to breathe in this strange new world when the first storm found him. The widow guided him through the endless corridors of her ship, her towering figure always ahead, her glowing hair flowing like fire and water. Everywhere they walked, the other alien women watched him. Their silver blue eyes followed him with curiosity, distrust, and something sharper, resentment. To them, Daniel was not a man. He was a weakness, whispers followed in the shadows. Too small, too fragile. She humiliates us with this choice. Daniel kept his head low, his fists clenched. He had been judged his whole life, for failing jobs, for being poor, for being invisible. But this judgment was heavier. These women were not neighbors or strangers on Earth. They were giants who could crush him with a hand. The widow ignored them. She walked as though the voices did not exist. But Daniel could feel the tension growing thicker with every step. It finally broke in the Hall of Blades. The chamber was vast, filled with weapons that hung in the air like stars. Blades longer than cars, spears glowing with blue fire, hammers heavy enough to smash mountains. The weapons floated silently, circling slowly as if they waited to be chosen. The widow stopped. This is where my people prove their strength. And this is where you will see what comes next. Before Daniel could ask, a voice cut across the hall, sharp as steel. You dishonor us, sister. Daniel turned. From the far side of the hall, another giant woman approached. She was taller than the widow, her skin darker, her eyes burning like twin suns. Armor clung to her like living scales, and her steps shook the ground. Her presence was thunder. The widow's gaze hardened. Vera! The newcomer's lips curled into a smile that held no warmth. She stopped a few steps away, her eyes falling on Daniel like knives. So this is the human you claim will give us strong blood. Daniel's heart raced. He felt naked under her stare. He survived the Krith, the widow said calmly. Vera laughed, the sound booming through the chamber. The Krith was weak, a shadow of what it once was. You call this creature worthy? Look at him. Bones wrapped in flesh, smaller than a child. She leaned closer to Daniel, her massive face filling his sight. He smells of fear. Daniel stepped back, anger and shame burning in his chest. I survived because I fought. What else do you want from me? Vera's eyes narrowed. I want truth. You are no husband for a widow of our kind. You are a pet, a toy, a mistake. The widow stepped between them, her glowing form shielding Daniel. You will not touch him. The hall grew silent. Daniel could feel the tension like fire. The two giants stared at each other, their glowing eyes clashing like blades. Vera's voice dropped to a growl. Then let us settle this. If he is worthy, let him prove it before us all. A duel. My strength against your choice. Daniel's heart stopped. What? No! The widow's hand lifted, silencing him. She stared at Vera, unflinching. If this is what you wish, then so be it. But the duel will not be with me. It will be with him. Daniel's blood ran cold. Wait, what? Me? Vera's laugh echoed through the chamber, cruel and sharp. Perfect. Let the little human stand. If he falls, the galaxy will know your weakness. The floating weapons around them began to hum, glowing brighter as if they too waited for blood. Daniel's knees trembled. His throat was dry. You're insane. I can't fight her. Look at her. She's a giant. The widow crouched, lowering her face to his level. Her voice was calm but edged with fire. Do not see her size. See her flaws. You have what she does not. Desperation, cunning, the will to survive. Use it. Daniel shook his head violently. This is suicide. Her glowing eyes locked on his. It is survival. If you want a place in this world, you must claim it. Before he could answer, the floor beneath him shifted. The chamber itself reformed into another arena. The weapons floating above shot downward, embedding themselves in the ground. Blades, spears, axes. A graveyard of choices. Vera stepped into the arena, her armor glowing, her smile sharp. Choose your weapon, little man. Die with some dignity. Daniel's chest heaved. His mind screamed to run, but the walls of light rose high again. There was no escape. Only fight or die. He walked to the weapons, his hands shaking. Most were far too big, too heavy. He could not lift them, but then he spotted a smaller blade, curved, sharp, glowing faintly with blue light. It was still heavy, but he could hold it. Barely. He gripped the hilt, sweat dripping from his forehead. Vera raised her massive spear, its head blazing with fire. Her voice boomed. When I am done, your body will prove to all that humans are nothing. Daniel tightened his grip on the blade. His legs trembled, his breath came in gasps. He was a man facing a storm, a child facing a god. But deep inside, a fire sparked. He had been underestimated all his life. Maybe this was no different. He raised the blade, his voice shaking but steady enough to be heard. Then come and see for yourself. The hall roared with energy as the duel began. The duel with Vera ended not with Daniel's death, but with his survival. He had not beaten her with strength. That was impossible. Instead, he had fought with desperation, speed, and a kind of reckless cunning only a human could manage. He had used her own weight against her, tricked her into overreaching, and left her with a wound she would not forget. The arena's walls had fallen, and the whispers of the watching widows spread like fire. Daniel was still alive, but survival carried its own burden. Every step afterward felt heavier, every gaze sharper. The alien women no longer whispered only about his weakness. Now they whispered about what he might become. The widow led him away from the Hall of Blades, her silence deeper than usual. Daniel staggered beside her, his arm still bleeding despite the glowing light that tried to heal him. He had no strength left to argue. Finally, they entered another chamber, smaller, dimly lit, its walls alive with slow waves of light. The air was warmer here, gentler. For the first time, Daniel did not feel like a prisoner inside a cage. The widow lowered herself, sitting upon a throne that grew from the floor like living stone. She studied him for a long time before speaking. You should not have survived. Daniel gave a weak laugh, dropping heavily onto the ground. That seems to be the story of my life. Her glowing eyes softened slightly. You are not like my people. They fight for power, for glory, for the right to command. But you fight because you refuse to fall. That is rare. Daniel looked at her, still breathing hard. And you wanted me to prove it. Even if it killed me. Her head tilted, her silver hair drifting. If you had died, you would not have been the one. I cannot carry weakness beside me. Her honesty stung, but Daniel saw something else in her eyes. Something beyond cold logic. A shadow. A wound. He leaned back against the living wall, the faint glow brushing his shoulders. You keep saying you lost your husband. What was he like? The widow's gaze grew distant, her voice quieter than before. He was strong, proud. He carried our people through the early wars. But he was also gentle. He planted the garden you saw. He spoke of peace even when war devoured everything. She paused, the light in her eyes dimming. When he fell, I was left with silence. My people looked to me for strength, but all I carried was emptiness. Daniel swallowed. For the first time, her voice did not sound like thunder in his head. It sounded like grief. I know what emptiness feels like, he said softly. Not like yours, but still real. On Earth, I lost everything. Jobs, family, friends. After a while, no one remembered I even existed. Some days I wondered why I was still breathing. The widow turned her head slowly, her eyes locking onto him. And yet you breathe still. That is why I chose you. You endure, even when nothing waits for you. Daniel met her gaze, and for a moment the distance between giant and human felt smaller. They were two beings from different worlds, yet both carried loneliness like a chain. The silence stretched, heavy but not cruel. Daniel broke it with a nervous laugh. You realize this is insane, right? You're a giant alien widow, and I'm just some guy who couldn't even keep a steady job. And now you're telling me I'm supposed to, build a future with you? Her lips curved, not quite a smile, not quite a sneer. Do you think I care what you were on Earth? Out there you were nothing. Here you can be everything. My people may doubt, but if you stand beside me, you will command them. And if we succeed, your blood will live in children who carry both our strengths. Daniel's chest tightened. Children. The thought sent a wave of fear and wonder through him. A hybrid race born of him and her? It was impossible. And yet here she was, speaking of it as truth. He shook his head slowly. And if I fail? Her eyes glowed brighter, sharp again. Then you die. And I choose another. Daniel exhaled, a bitter laugh escaping him. You're not exactly great at making a guy feel safe, you know that? But even as he said it, he saw something shift in her face. A flicker of warmth, faint but real, hidden beneath layers of command and pride. You are not meant to feel safe, she said softly. You are meant to feel alive. For the first time since this began, Daniel believed her. The chamber grew quiet again. Daniel leaned his head back, his body aching, his mind spinning. He should have hated her for forcing him into this. He should have feared her every word. But beneath the fear and anger, something else stirred. Respect. And to his own shock, a spark of trust. He looked up at her one more time, his voice low but steady. If I'm going to stand beside you, I need to know the truth. Do you want me because of what I can give your people, or because of what you lost? The widow's eyes narrowed, the glow flickering. She did not answer right away. But when she did, her voice carried both fire and shadow. Perhaps both. Daniel's chest tightened. It wasn't love, not yet. It wasn't even safety. But it was a bond, fragile, dangerous, and real. And as he closed his eyes, exhaustion pulling him down, one thought whispered in his mind. He was no longer alone. The bond between Daniel and the widow had begun to take shape, fragile and uncertain, but real. He had seen her pain, her loneliness, and she had seen his quiet strength. But the galaxy had no patience for slow bonds or gentle promises. The test came faster than either of them expected. The ship shuddered. Lights across the walls flickered. A deep alarm rang through the corridors, low and heavy like the heartbeat of a dying star. Daniel shot to his feet, his chest tightening. What's happening? He asked. The widow's glowing eyes narrowed. Her voice was sharper than steel. An attack. The walls of the chamber opened, revealing wide views of space. Daniel's breath caught. Out there in the black ocean of stars, dozens of ships closed in. Smaller than the widow's vessel, but fast, sharp, and hungry. Their hulls gleamed with jagged red light. The widow stood tall, her hair glowing like fire. The Scarran, she said. Raiders, enemies of all who are weak. Daniel's throat tightened. He had never seen a real battle in his life. And now one was rushing straight at him. The ship trembled again as the first blast struck. Bright fire streaked across the dark, slamming against the widow's shields. The alien women around them rushed into action, their armor glowing, their weapons alive. Orders thundered through the corridors in voices deep and harsh. The widow turned to Daniel, her face unreadable. Stay here. But Daniel shook his head, fear burning inside him. No, I'm not hiding. Not now, her eyes narrowed. You will only die. Then I'll die trying. If I run, I'm nothing. For a moment, she studied him silent. Then without a word, she turned and led him toward the command hall. The hall was alive with chaos. Giant screens showed the swarm of raiders, red ships circling like wolves. The widows shouted strategies, their glowing hands dancing across living controls. Energy surged through the ship like blood through veins, but the enemy was too many. For every raider destroyed, more took its place. The ship groaned, shields cracking under fire. Daniel's hands shook. He was useless here. He had no weapon, no training, nothing. And yet, as he stared at the glowing panels, a thought struck him. On Earth, he had spent his life fixing broken things. Cheap jobs, failing systems, dying machines. He knew how to improvise, how to push weak systems past their limit. He rushed to one of the panels. The alien symbols meant nothing to him, but the structure, the logic, was familiar. Energy flowing like a circuit, shields feeding power, weapons draining it too fast. He turned to the widow. "You're splitting energy between shields and weapons. That's why you're losing." Her eyes flashed. "And what do you know of war?" "I know survival," Daniel snapped. "You're bleeding power in two directions. Reroute weapons through the shield matrix. Let the shields carry the charge, one burst, one strike. Hit them all at once." The widows around them hissed, furious. "He knows nothing. He is human. He will doom us," but the widow raised her hand, silencing them. Her gaze locked on Daniel. "If this fails, we die." Daniel met her eyes. His voice was steady, even as his heart pounded. "Then let me try." The widow hesitated and then nodded. Daniel's hands flew across the panel, guided by instinct and desperation. The circuits resisted, the symbols screamed in warning, but he forced the ship's energy into one pulsing charge. The ship itself shook as though in pain, its walls glowing brighter and brighter. The raiders swarmed closer, sensing weakness. "Now!" Daniel shouted. The widow struck her hand across the final control. The ship roared, a blinding wave of energy exploding outward. The blast tore across the stars, slamming into the swarm of raiders. One by one, their ships cracked, shattered, and burned. Their red lights snuffed out in silence. The black ocean was quiet again. Daniel slumped against the panel, his body trembling. He could barely breathe. He had no weapon, no armor, but he had saved them. The chamber was silent. The widows stared at him, their glowing eyes wide, some with shock, some with disbelief. The widow stepped forward, her towering shadow covering him. Slowly, she lowered herself until her face was close, her voice low but heavy with meaning. "You are not a mistake," she said. "You are not weak. You are mine." Daniel swallowed hard, his chest tight. For the first time, he believed her. The alien women around them knelt, their voices whispering like wind. The one they had mocked, the fragile man, had saved them all. The widow stood tall, her voice carrying across the hall. "This man is my choice. With him our future begins." Daniel's legs almost gave out. He wanted to laugh, to cry, to scream. Instead, he simply whispered to himself, "What have I become?" The widow's hand lowered again, open, waiting, and this time Daniel took it.